Okay, so we're going to talk. Are they for real? Kyle's first, are they for real? Is the Colorado offense, is prime time on the field for real? What do you think, Kyle?
So I think Sean Lewis is a very good offensive coordinator. We talked about this in the Pac-12 preview. I think Sean Lewis is definitely head coach level OC, and I think he'll be a Power 5 head coach next year. And he's done a terrific job, and this offense plays really fast. They played a ton of snaps on offense, and that definitely helps these guys, especially with these short passes. I think the thing that gives me the most pause, 50% of their passing yardage came after the catch in this game. A lot of these TCU TBs were like trying to give arm tackles to these wide receivers, and it just didn't work. Jimmy Horn and Xavier Weaver definitely looked electric after the catch. They definitely had some nice little juke moves, but this TCU DB room is definitely not the one that got them to the playoff last year. Definitely much worse. It's just a TCU team in general that's much worse. So I'm not sold on Colorado yet. I still think I'm impressed enough to say that they're a bowl team now, but I don't think they're more than an 8-win team at the very best. I don't think they're going to hang with USC and Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to hang with USC, but I think they're for real. I mean, I guess what's the expectation? Are we saying, are they for real? They're going undefeated and they're a chance, they're a playoff team. I don't think anyone's saying that, but
the people who didn't follow this story in the offseason and are just tweeting about the Colorado offense after watching this one game did seem to think that. There were a lot of people hyping this up as, oh, this team just beat the runner-up from last year and whatever.
Yeah. Watching the film, I mean, we got Shadeur Sanders highlights up, which also is Jimmy Horn highlights and Dylan Edwards highlights. So it's kind of why we just cut to the chase with that. But I mean, these guys are like wide open a lot of the time. So I do think, the play calling's creative. They are spreading it out. They're using a lot of like mesh and crossers and stuff to kind of help guys get open, get them in space. But I think the concept, right, of like, you have these playmakers, and I think the guys are talented, and putting them out in space and letting them work. I mean, it's like San Francisco, right? I'm not saying that it's Kyle Shanahan, but it's the same kind of idea that they're working there. And I mean, look, I think it looks sustainable to me. I think they're going to have a good season. I don't know if. I'm not putting them in the playoffs, but I do think that I think they're a bowl team, right?
I think they're going to be a good CFF team, but I think the only player who really proved anything to me that I didn't already know talent-wise, I'll say players, was Dylan Sampson and Travis Hunter.
Dylan Edwards.
Dylan Edwards. I'm going to do that for the rest of my life.
Probably. Yes, I had to correct you in the show sheet as well.
But yeah, I mean, Travis Hunter looked like an amazing wide receiver and an amazing corner at the same time. It's going to be incredible just to watch him play for the rest of the season and everything. But
so they got.
Is Travis Hunter for real? Do you think he's going to get 14 targets again?
Oh, I cannot imagine him sustaining this for a whole season. So I think the kid gets hurt if they do. You just can't play that much P5 football. Like I don't know, dude. Maybe he's like that type of freak, like the Adrian Peterson type.
He's 100% a freak. That's insane.
But just your body breaks down. You know what I mean? I don't think he can maintain that level of performance for a full season. You know what I mean? It's just statistically improbable.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited about Weaver and Horn for the rest of the season, but I think they'll play defenses that are much better throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think they're going to win a lot of games. I do, and I think they're going to be productive for CFF. I think the formula they have. Yeah, some teams are going to figure it out better than TCU did. I think TCU embarrassed themselves. I think TCU were looking through this one, right? Or maybe just didn't have the personnel to figure it out. But I think you expected them to play better defense than they did. I mean, we were just watching those kids get lit up out there. But I don't know. I think we'll know a lot more in a few weeks. But I would say they're for real. I think you also manage expectations. You know what I mean? Like, I think if they get 8 or 9 wins, then like they've done very well. You know, which that means like.
And I do want to talk about TCU really quick. I have some thoughts that I just need to put out there. The Sonny Dykes offense still looks really good with Kendall Briles calling the plays, but not the same as it was last year. Chandler Morris still looks like Chandler Morris. He hasn't taken a step. I think he threw 2 picks in this game, and they were both pretty bad. The wide receiver room, nobody's replacing Quentin Johnson, it looks like. But I was really impressed by the tight end, Jack Wiley. I'm putting in waiver claims for Wiley. I think he'll have a productive season at tight end. He looked like the best pass catcher on the team at times in this game. And Amani Bailey looked very explosive. He's a guy who definitely doesn't have long speed, but showed a lot of burst in this game. So,
yeah,
impressed by that.
I love it. I got nothing to argue with about any of that, really. They're going to say Amani Bailey, where it's like even against, it seemed to be a decent defense. Yeah, he was running for like 14 to carry. I mean, that's pretty nuts. And,
he had one 70-yarder from their own 1 yard line where if he had an extra gear, he would have made it to the end zone. But so that is my one knock on Bailey, is that he just does not have that NFL long speed.
And he ain't getting the goal line carries because Trey Sanders got all of them. So that looks like an offense you could maybe start both of them because I think they'll have better days than this, right? And I mean, they still scored a crap ton of points,
Yeah,
it was a boat race. It was a boat race.
They've always been good at running the football, and they've always had 2 backs. I mean, whether it be like last year, it was Amari DiMercato and remind me, he also went to the NFL and is a really good Kendry Miller. Yeah,
right. But that was kind of more like Kendry was the lead. DiMercato was like the 1B or the lightning guy, right? And this time it kind of looks like Amani Bailey is the 1, Sanders is the 2, but Sanders is getting the goal line. So a little bit different of a breakup. Gosh, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to have to kind of speed racer through a couple of these, the ones we care about less. So I guess you tell me in 2 minutes or less, is Cincinnati for real? I mean, Emory Jones, Xavier Hutchinson, not at all. Why not?
They played Eastern Kentucky in this game. Eastern Kentucky's not very good at football. I do think the Scott Satterfield offense really fits Emory Jones's strengths. However few strengths he has very well. So I do think Emory Jones will have some CFF productive weeks against some of the weaker Big 12 teams. But I think when it comes to, the teams that actually play defense, the Texases, the Kansases of the world, I think they'll struggle in some of these games. Henderson did look good, though.
Do you think Xavier Henderson is a CFF asset this year?
Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to do this every week, but I think he's going to be a guy with some ups and some downs. But I think he's a clear wide receiver 1 there.
Yeah, that team brought in like 4 or 5 transfer wide receivers, and all of them were just kind of mess. So I don't think there's any better competition on the team. So
And I feel like they've generally had like a wide receiver one in that center field offense, right? Like a guy or two guys that get a pretty high concentration of targets the past few years. Like last year was Tyler Scott and the one other kid.
No, he was Satterfield was at Louisville last year, and the last few years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, Marshawn Ford had some good years.
That's the record.
I don't know.
Louisville
But
spread it out.
Malik Cunningham has a very good years, and Emory Jones is a very similar quarterback. So I do like Jones for CFF for sure.
All right. Enough said about Cincinnati. What do you got? What do you got here?
Washington State, Ben Arbuckle taking over as OC, the former OC from Western Kentucky, and he brings that air raid with him. They threw for, I think, like 400 passing yards in this game, put up 50 points against Colorado State, which isn't a bottom of the barrel program by any means. Not anything special, but also not horrible. And they did really well in the air in this game. I think Cameron Ward looked pretty solid. And a couple of these wide receivers ate, and not the one that I thought would, which is kind of disappointing. Lincoln Victor had 14 targets in this. He's a fifth-year senior who started his career at Hawaii and transferred to Washington State with Nick Rolovich. He had 14 targets, 11 receptions for 168 yards. Meanwhile, Josh Kelly, the UNLV transfer from this year, kind of the red zone target, the tallest wide receiver on the team by a large margin, had 9 targets, of which he caught 8 for 110 and a touchdown. And then DT Sheffield was the guy that I was most excited about. He's kind of fits that slot mold similar to Victor, but he's a lot faster, a lot more explosive. He had just 4 targets in this game, caught 3 of them for 19 yards. I don't know what to make of this split in terms of wide receivers. I was hoping Sheffield would be the one, and he clearly isn't in this game. I don't know if that's – my question is, like, is that the real case? Is Lincoln Victor going to be the wide receiver one? Because if he is, you need to pick him up. And is Sheffield going to get 4 targets every week?
Yeah, so are you putting claims in on Lingard?
On Victor? I think you have to.
Yeah.
I think anybody with like more than 12 targets this week, I'm willing to put a claim in on. If I have somebody on my roster I want to drop, definitely. So,
yeah, and if you're listening to us and not watching us, we've got some Washington State highlights going on up here, and Cam Ward looks good, man. And what we're seeing right now, I mean, yeah, it's not a top tier defense, but just the ball placement is kind of the things that we were expecting him to do, transferring up. But it just seems like he took a little bit of time to really adjust. But last year he didn't really have very good weapons.
Yeah, and it's a new look offense in terms of wide receiver talent and a new offensive coordinator. And then that new offensive coordinator does seem to be bad for the running back, Nakia Watson, who was a top 15 running back last year. I think he averaged more than 20 fantasy points a game. Mm-hmm. And this game he had 7 carries for just 15 yards, caught 3 passes for 16 yards, and a receiving touchdown, bails out his CFF day. But that's not the production that's going to get him in the top 15 again. So not super excited about Watson for the rest of the year anymore.
Yeah. I'm very excited for the couple of Ward shares I do have. I mean, he's a kid that could have an NFL future still. If he does, not this year, it would be like plays well this year, plays well next year, comes out in the 25 class, I would think.
I think he'd be like, what, 23, 24 if he did that?
Who cares these days, man? Yeah. Kenny Pickett can do it. Why not Cam Ward, you know? Hendon Hooker can do it. Why not Cam Ward, you know? I don't know. I think he'd have to play really well this year to get to day 2, right? Like
he's on pace.
Yeah,
I think he had like the 4th highest quarterback output in CFF this week. So
yeah, he'd have to go nuts to be.
Either way, you're happy to have him on your C2C teams because he's putting up CFF points. What is that pass? That was a
shovel. I took. Yeah. Sorry. Cut it off right when you're getting the words out. Okay. Jaxton Dart, Trey Harris. I mean, that was a big question for me too. I've been kind of like anti-Dart just because I don't know, man. I watched a lot of film on them last year, and he just didn't look sharp. Right, would be the thing, and it definitely didn't. They didn't trust him to have passing volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you had 2 NFL caliber backs. I get it. You don't really need to throw the ball much, but they just didn't seem to have a balanced attack to me last year. And maybe that was the wide receiver talent, but I read into it as being Dart more than anything else, that they just thought he wasn't ready or just really didn't have it. But and then they kind of told me that this offseason again by going into the portal and getting 2 other talented quarterbacks.
But then they didn't tell you that because he won the starting job.
Well, maybe he's taken a step.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you're Spencer Sanders, you didn't come there without the promise to compete for the starting job and have a reasonable chance to win it. Right. So maybe Dart just took a step this year. And then Trey, I only score touchdowns, Harris, with the 6-133 line, six catches for 133 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean,
yeah, he transfers up from Louisiana Tech and does that in his first game. He had 9 targets in this game. Very impressive.
Yeah, and he's a guy you were high on, or the beat I was high on. The beats have been talking about him. Slot guy, but a big slot, power slot, not a little guy.
Hey,
I mean, that is.
Speaking of guys you were high on, your boy Aiden Williams had 7 targets in this game.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he caught 2 of them.
Well, who's the quarterback though? Was it still Dart?
I don't know. It probably wasn't. It was probably either Sanders or Howard.
I think you're
probably
like
Sanders.
You're probably more excited that he got 7 targets than you are bummed out that he got 2 of them, right? And then actually, Aiden Lee as well got on the field, got a catch, got a touchdown. So
a 34-yard touchdown too.
My theory all along has been that those 2 guys both have a Debbie future, and they both seem well on their way to erasing the year 1-0 for themselves, which is pretty cool. A couple more blowouts, and they'll both hit the markers we want. Which is cool. Yeah. So what do you think? Is this like obviously they weren't playing the best defense, right? They're playing
Mercer, an FCS program. I think this is for real with Jaxton Dart, and I feel like I've said that every year. So maybe I'm wrong again, but I think Jaxton Dart's going to put it together in this offense this year. I'm not completely sold on Trey Harris yet. Obviously, the 4 touchdowns on 6 catches isn't going to happen every week. Jordan Watkins had a very impressive game himself, just didn't get the touchdowns to fall his way. He had 6 catches for 111 yards. And then Zachary Franklin is still not active yet, and I think he'll have a role in this offense in the wide receiver room as well. So I'm not sold on Trey Harris yet, but I do think Jaxton Dart has a better – I'm not putting a claim on him that's significant enough to actually get him.
You're not throwing like $10 at him. You're throwing like
I would throw like $2 on him if I didn't get somebody else.
I think if you want him on your roster Wednesday, you probably have to throw $10 at him.
Yeah,
people are going to look at the stat line and be like,
I agree.
Also, I mean, I don't know. Like did you check like route distribution and things like that?
Yeah, I have it right here in front of me. Trey Harris ran 21 routes, while Jordan Watkins ran 29. Dayton Wade ran 26. And then Aiden Williams, 18. Michael Triggs, 17. So he's definitely starting. But like I said, Franklin not playing in this game, I think, has some kind of role in that. Yeah. I do think Franklin's the most also talented.
Their tight end one not playing, Prescorn.
Yeah, Caden Prescorn, yeah.
So, yeah, it could be. He looks good on these highlights, man. Like, yeah, he looks good, man. He's going up and getting the ball. He's winning contested balls. He's breaking tackles. So he might be a good, like, Mingo replacement, honestly. Like, kind of the same height, build. I don't know if he's that athletic. Mingo's a freak, but kind kind of seems to be the role they have him in right now, which might be exciting. Mingo was passable at least. So yeah, that'd be an interesting one. You're definitely gonna have to pay to get him. I don't know. I'm on the fence because if he's the wide receiver one, I think it's going to be a valuable role to have. But yeah, I'd rather have like Ashlock. I'd rather have Jimmy Warren, I think. So
yeah.
All right, who's next?
Jaquavis Marks, the Mississippi State running back. My immediate reaction was no, and then I kind of looked into this a little more, and I'm on the fence now. He had 19 carries for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mississippi State playing this game against Southeastern Louisiana, so like scrubs. But kind of the narrative that I've written with Marks all off season, and I tend to believe, is that obviously they change a coaching staff. Mike Leach no longer with us, and they bring in an offensive coordinator that likes to run the ball much more than the air raid that they used to run. So I did think Marks would have some good games against these bad teams, rushing the ball. But what surprised me in this game was that he still had 5 targets, of which he caught 459 yards. I don't know. Maybe in his years under Leach and, where he had 60 to 80 targets every season, he's just learned to catch the ball so well that they still have to use him in that role. In which case, there's still fantasy points to be scored.
Yeah, he's good at it. He's a good pass catcher. So if he's going to catch 5 balls a game, he's a good CFF asset. NFL, I don't know. UDFA,
no,
right?
Not really. Yeah.
Oh, right. This next guy is more fun for me to talk about because this is a guy that I was hyping, one of the ahead of the curve ones for me. That's Dylan Sampson, the Tennessee back. Of all people, my, orange bleeding friend over here. You think you'd get your running back's name right?
I remember when Dylan Edwards committed to Colorado, I was like, I didn't even know he was in the transfer portal.
God. What's funny because their profile similarly, they're both speed backs, they're both undersized, and they're both hyper explosive. Obviously, Sampson's been around a year longer, and look, Sampson's a guy that I caught early in my summer scouting. I took some benchmarks, just numbers that I could get off Campus to Canton that identified numbers that were thresholds that guys that were going to the NFL were hitting, not like super scientific with it. I didn't build a model. I just like flagged some markers, right? And Dylan Sampson hit all of them as a true freshman. And yeah, it's easy to be efficient when you're a change of pace guy, right? But I don't know. I think we saw the talent on film this weekend. What's your take on him?
I mean, he's the RB3 in this offense.
Is he?
Yeah. I mean, I'll pull it up, but I'm pretty darn sure that
they got
Jalen
like
Wright
almost
and Jabari
identical
Small
carry counts.
had more snaps.
They all had within like 2 carries of each other. Which I don't know when in the game they occurred, though. I didn't watch the game. You might know better than me.
I know Jalen Wright got the first drive. Jalen Wright had 12 attempts, 115 yards, and played. Need snaps. Jalen Wright had 28 snaps. Dylan Sampson had 27. Jabari Small had 26. So I guess this has turned in from a 2-headed backfield to a 3-headed backfield.
To a true mess, in other words. But Sampson gets the goal line work.
Yeah, a true mess that where all 3 guys are going to be semi-productive and all 3 guys are going to have big weeks. It's going to be really annoying.
Yeah, start them all in a beatdown, but in a tight game, I don't know. You're probably going to wind up with 1 guy that was useful and 2 that weren't. But I think,
I just think in tight games they'll play more of Wright because Wright's the best back by a long shot. At least in this game, I mean, Wright had 9.6 yards a carry. Sampson had 4. Small had 5.2.
Sampson got the goal line carries. tough to get 9 yards when you're running it in from the 2, dude.
They weren't even from the 2. They're from like the 8. I don't know. Samson did look good bouncing the ball outside. He's not going to take any work between the tackles, though, is the thing.
Yeah, got it. Do you think he's a Devy talent?
Yes, I think he makes the NFL.
Yeah, but like day 3 guy?
I could be convinced that he's a day 2 guy, but he has to take the job. Like, he could be a day 2. I don't even think so. But Jalen Wright and Jabari Small both have to go pro.
Right, and then next year Samson has 1,000 yards. Sure, I could read that story. All right, Keandre Lambert-Smith, is he for real?
Probably. He had 6 targets. I mean, I think we both felt that Drew Aller was going to have a great season, and we wanted to find which wide receiver was going to pop out for him, break out for him. And we were proven right on the first point. I mean, Drew Aller had an amazing game, looked really good against West Virginia. And Keandre Lambert-Smith led the wide receiver group in fantasy points because he scored 2 touchdowns, had 123 yards, and 4 receptions on 6 targets. He's a guy who we thought had talent coming out of high school, and he's doing it now. I don't know. It's tough. Harrison Wallace, the other wide receiver, had 8 targets and caught 7 for 72 yards. Which of these? I don't know which guy is really going to be the guy. That's why I put it down.
So
I don't know.
Do they have to be one? I mean, if Drew Aller is a top 5 NFL draft pick, that level of quarterback, and they have a balanced offense, it can support 2 guys.
Yeah.
I guess the bigger question for me is, does like Malik McClain or like Dante Cephas like sneak up and like,
Cephas was not.
He got
Cephas
one catch.
Was an afterthought in this game. I totally forgot about him.
I don't think it's him.
That's quick.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm decisive with week 1. You got to make moves. Sometimes I drop guys and then I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. But I'd usually rather regret the things I did than the things I didn't do.
That is fair. Cephas had 5 snaps, 5 routes. So yeah, I think Cephas is a drop.
I think he's out. Yeah. All right. You had Sam Pickney on here. Why do you have Sam Pickney on here?
Because he led the nation in targets this week. 18 targets for Sam Pickney this week. Obviously, Coastal Carolina playing UCLA, got into a bit of a shootout there. Grayson McCall had to throw it, and he slung it to the wide receiver Sam Pinkney. We think they have 2 good wide receivers between Pinkney and Jared Brown, so it was a little surprising for him to hyper-target Pinkney in this game. But I think that's definitely a good sign for Pinkney in his first game this season. So excited for him going into the rest of the year. I don't think 18 targets is sustainable, but I think it is for real that he's going to have a very good CFF season.
I think he's a CFF monster. He was cheap in drafts too. I don't know why, man. I got him like 10th, 11th round sometimes, and he was good last year. Like, it was pretty set up well for him and Jared Brown both to have good seasons this year. And Brown had an okay game too, right? Just not a Pinkney level smash. So yeah, I'm all in on Pinkney for CFF. Plus, I like the fact that he did it against P5 school. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think against weaker schools, I think you're going to see some video game numbers out of him.
Yeah, especially if the defense isn't great and those weaker schools stay in those games.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have to kind of like rapid fire my are they for real? But for the most part, I think we can. Some of them we've talked about a lot already. So let's just go Go quick. LJ Johnson. Third college at this point, right?
Second. No.
Second.
He started at Texas A&M, transferred down to SMU this year.
Never played at A&M. Though.
Correct.
And I thought there was did he get in trouble?
Are you thinking of the wide receiver?
No, I thought LJ Johnson got in trouble. But anyways, smash, right? 7 yards a carry in this game, a couple of tutties. Heftily outperformed the other transfer.
Kamar Wheaton?
No, the other transfer. The kid from Miami or whatever.
Oh, Henry Parrish.
Oh, it's not even Knighton. Jalen Knighton.
Jalen Knighton.
Parrish had a good game. Parrish is still there. But can he be a Debbie guy still?
Yes. I think SMU gets enough eyes. They're moving to the ACC in a few years. And they've gotten guys drafted, whether it be Rashee Rice or the wide receiver before him. So, and I think they'll be good. I think Preston Stone is a good quarterback, and I think RJ Maryland will have scouts there to see him. So I think people will get to see LJ Johnson here at SMU, and I think a good start for him. Had some breakaway runs.
Plus, if what we heard about him as a prospect coming out is accurate, he is a freak. He's purportedly a 4.4 guy at 215 pounds coming out of high school. So
and this offense features running back well, and they tend to score fantasy points. So excited about him, I think.
Okay, what else we got? Shadeur Sanders, we talked about. We're done with that. Mikey Keene.
Well, we got to answer the question. Is he for real?
Yeah, I already said that. Yeah, I think he's good. I think he gets drafted high. Yes.
I don't think he's 510 yards a game for real.
You don't have to be.
I don't know. I don't think he's actually as talented as the stat line suggests. I do think he's good. I'm not sold on him being amazing. I don't think he's showcased enough to be.
Pedigree bump
I don't think he's showcased enough to be a first-round pick. He did not. Game. He didn't push the. Yeah, and it's the best game he's ever had, and I don't think that's fair to expect.
You need the deep ball if he's going to be around one game.
Exactly.
I think if he does this for the rest of the season, he gets drafted, but round 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's unless this is a fluke, he's getting drafted, and it's not round 4, 5, 6. He's got the hype machine already, man. The hype machine is real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
Mikey Keene, CFF superstar. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
They beat up on Purdue, so I think they'll beat up on Mountain West teams.
Yeah, Mountain West teams are going to get beat. I guess this is my question I asked you earlier. If you have 2 waiver picks and you're a year and you're a competitive team on the college side, are you using one on Keene?
If I need a quarterback, sure.
Yeah. All right. TJ Finley, Texas State. You were super high on Texas State in the offseason because of coaching changes, which you can talk more about now if you want. Finley takes the lunch out of the hands of Malik Hornsby, who was purportedly going to start.
No, he wasn't. He was never reportedly going to start. We were just all excited about him because he has so much potential. And we just thrust him into this role that, Malik Hornsby is going to be the guy because we're all so excited about him. And TJ Finley was horrible at Auburn.
Yeah, Finley's been horrible everywhere. Anyways, goes for 300 yards, 3 tutties.
Against Baylor. And wins the game against Baylor. Yeah, I think he's for real. I think this offense is very, very nice for quarterbacks, and I think TJ Finley is going to be playing at a level where he is a very good player. Obviously, that is not the case in the SEC, but I think that will be the case at Texas State. And I think he has a great wide receiver room. I mean, Ashton Hawkins is there, who didn't even have a really good game this week.
Hawkins should have been in our bus column.
Joey Hobart had a very good game, though, this week, and he's a very good wide receiver. And they had some other guys go off, too. So I like TJ Finley rest of the season. He's a guy that I'm going to try to pick up if I need a quarterback in leagues where I have unlimited waivers. I'm not rushing to get him in limited waiver leagues. But
Finley or Keene? That's easily Keene for me, but I'm curious what you have to say.
I don't know. I have to look at the schedules. But I think Finley has more weapons. Keene threw the ball more. Keene had 44 attempts. Finley had 30. So I guess I'll lean Keene.
Yeah, for me, it's not even close. Like Keene would be a top expenditure for me, and Finley's more like a $1 at the end of my list guy. But all right. So Todd Washington, currently the wide receiver one for USC, 19.5 points per game. He has been the deep threat. He has had 5 targets, 5 catches, 2 touchdowns, 150 yards in 2 games. Can this sustain?
He looks explosive. I think he's definitely a little gadgety. I think he'll be gadgety when it comes down to Pac-12 play. But he's been good in that role. He gets it done. He gets to the end zone. He gets yardage. I don't know. I think Robinson and Branch are going to be so good this year.
I think by the end of the season,
once they get ready, yeah,
they're the top targets, honestly. Or maybe it's like the beginning of next year, but
I think Washington does enough to get himself drafted.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if he catches 2 deep balls from Caleb every week for the rest of the season, you ought to have put a claim in on him now, right? Like you should have thrown $1 on him because that's a 15+ point per game player.
Yeah, you can't count on those deep balls every week, though.
You might be able to. I don't know. They're airing it out. There's so much talent. It's not like he's drawing top corners. He's probably burning the DB3 from other teams, So
yeah, there's so much speed to cover, I guess, between Branch, Singer, and Washington.
Yeah. I mean, and Caleb don't care. He's like, oh, this dude's open. I'm going to throw a bomb to him, I think Caleb has rapport with Todd. She's played more with Todd than anyone else there except Mario. So, it might be a pattern forming. We'll see. I'm probably not putting a waiver in unless I got a really bad team just because there's so many guys that I like this week. But I could see if he's still out there in a couple of weeks and some of my other claims don't work out, I could see throwing the buck on him.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. Gary Bryant, 7 catches, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns against Portland State or whatever. I get it, but could he be the wide receiver 2 for Oregon, and do you care?
Yes, I care about the wide receiver 2 for Oregon. Could he be it? Yes. Gary Bryant Jr. led the team in routes this week because Troy Franklin was pulled off the field after he ate. He had 28 routes. Tez Johnson had 22. Trayshawn Holden had 22. That's the competition for him, truly. And he definitely outperformed him. He had 7 targets. Both those guys had 3 and 4. So, I think there's a case to be made that Gary Bryant's the wide receiver 2 here. But I want to see it one more week to say for sure.
Yeah. All right. Is it for real the Michigan State passing offense?
No.
You don't think they'll throw more in competitive games? Because you like McCarthy, okay, right? I think we both like him.
Michigan or Michigan State?
Oh, I meant Michigan.
Okay, yeah, you said Michigan State. I was like, what?
Oh,
I thought Noah Kim wasn't even good.
No, I mean, no, I'm off Michigan State entirely right now. I'm dropping guys.
Except for Nathan Carter.
Will Michigan throw more this year? And are you interested in
32 attempts against East Carolina? Yeah, I think that means they'll throw more. You don't like try to tune up your passing game against bad teams if you're not actually going to use it.
That's a good point. You would have just had the two freshman running backs run them over, right?
Yeah, but wow, Roman Wilson, 6 receptions, 78 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He seems on a mission to get himself drafted. So
yeah, some people are high on him. He looked explosive. He looked explosive last year too. I'm suspect from a Debbie point because it's like really late breakout. You know what I mean?
I mean,
But
everybody on that team at wide receiver has looked explosive. They just haven't had production in college. I mean, Nico Collins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Andrew Anthony, all these guys looked explosive. They just never did anything to warrant CFF value.
Yeah, partly I think it's Harbaugh plays the vets. You know what I mean? You can't break out early in Michigan. Just don't let it happen. The one sophomore got on the field a little bit, Clemens, but he didn't do anything. So I'm not hanging on to him where I have him.
I don't know. I think they'll still try to pound the rock. I mean, they still have one of the best running backs in the country behind one of the best offensive lines in the country.
2 of the best running backs in the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
But
that's all I got. You got anything?